Well, hello there, I'm Cass, and this is going to be one of those scripted videos that you might have seen me doing on my regular channel, but instead it's going to be a first impression of either a game that I've recently played and gotten that's a new release, not a game that's like 20 years old, which wouldn't make much sense, or a demo that recently came out. And what demo recently came out? What demo came recently out? I can't even speak right now. Castlevania, Lord of Shadow, Mirror of Fate. Now, I've always had this love, not so much love, but really respect for the Castlevania series. I really loved the installments before Symphony of the Night. Great level design, great music, great atmosphere, really challenging, especially the third one. I have not to this day beaten it, but I still love it. I love the way it kicks my ass. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I digress. I haven't played Symphony of the Night. I will be 100% honest with that. I know that's probably gonna anger some people who think that not playing it is going to just destroy my opinion on the Castlevania games now. But I just never got around to it. I hope to get around to it sometime really soon. But as for the other Castlevanias that have come after it, I really enjoy them, but they have a certain sameness to their design that you can tell they got from Castlevania, Symphony of the Night. And while it's good, I do wish that they would have changed it up, and apparently they decided to change it up with Castlevania, Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate. So I'm going to be getting it Tuesday. How's the demo? Whether or not you should get it, whatnot, etc., etc. Let's get started. So, Castlevania, Lords of Shadow / Mirror of Fate / Hyper Arcade Edition, Third Strike, number 345. It's a stupid title. That's all I gotta say about the actual title. I know that they were just gonna try and make a sequel to Lords of Shadow, and they are making an actual sequel. This is sort of a prequel to Lords of Shadow 2, but they could have just called it Castlevania Mirror of Fate and said, this is the prequel to Lords of Shadow 2, which we're releasing in March, as opposed to when Lords of Shadow is coming out. Either way, is the demo itself worth getting? Is the game worth getting? Well, I can't say for the game, but as for the demo, whether it's worth getting on your 3DS to try out, it's free, but if you don't have the memory space, just don't delete anything. You don't need it. It's probably the first time that I've ever been bored by a Castlevania game, which is something that I never thought I'd say about Castlevania game, because either it would be getting me frustrated because of just Medusa heads attacking me, or me falling off because I got hit by an enemy, or just me losing to a really difficult boss, or me getting an item and thinking, okay, I gotta go here next, right? This is where I can use this item. But this one doesn't have any of those characteristics of Castlevania that I can think of aside from gothic design and frustration that comes from it. Although the last few haven't been very challenging except for Order of Ecclesia, but I digress. In the demo, you play as Trevor. You can hit things with your battle cross, and I'll be honest, the combat is very simple button masher. X for light attacks, I believe. Y was the one I always used for heavy attacks. It seemed to deal the most damage, and the combat just didn't feel that great to begin with. You can just quickly switch between light attacks, heavy attacks, which I get what they're going for, but it doesn't feel very deep. You can just keep button mashing all you want, and the enemies will just die. During the boss battle, that's different. You have to dodge, but up till then, you probably can just keep pressing XY, XY, XY. The combat is not very fun in that respect. And some of the enemies, including the bosses, you can only kill by pressing R. And let me tell you, this game uses R way too often. Instead of just pressing another button, like, I don't know, the jump button to get an item or to activate something, or just press up like a lot of the other Castlevania games did for save spots, just saving in, like, a coffin. No, you gotta press R of all buttons. And that's really annoying. That's the big problem with these games. It's control. You don't feel like you have a lot of control over the characters like you did in Order of Ecclesia. Dracula's Curse was not exactly the best example because those controls aren't exactly great, but they are very tight. Trevor doesn't feel like he controls as well as those other characters do, and I'm not entirely sure of why. I think the big problem is that the controls are a bit sluggish. Whenever you press to jump or to dodge, it usually takes about a second for it to actually dodge or to jump or double jump. So that's probably why it's the boss battle at the very end has you waiting for like 5 seconds for him to actually attack in certain spots. Oh, and speaking of which, that boss battle at the very end has one incredibly cheap attack, where if you roll out and you think that you're safe from his attack, he hammers it down, everything gets damaged in front, there's a little wave. But here's the thing, and I checked this like 3 or 4 times, the wave that he creates is actually larger than what it displays. So instead of it being like this area, it's actually this area. And I'm not talking about like where he hits down, I'm talking about the area that expands out. It's larger than what it expands out. Instead of being, say, this, it's this. This massive area. Maybe it's just me, but it didn't feel like it was doing anything that was Castlevania besides the frustrating difficulty. And, well, there is one more thing that actually is very Castlevania. Or rather, something that should have been in Castlevania, but they got rid of. If you recall from Castlevania, I believe Super Castlevania 4, you could whip in any direction and you could cling on to certain spots. And they do that in this game, which is done with, guess what button? The R button. And, as you can expect, it works, it's fun to do like it was back then, or at least it would be fun if you didn't have to use R to jump off. Instead of just whipping and then pressing B or timing it properly and releasing the R button, you have to click it twice, which is really stupid. Instead of you jumping off with the jump button or releasing the R button, no, you gotta tap it twice. And this is something that's been programmed in my brain. Whenever it's hold on to a button, you either release it or you just wait for it to do some automatic command. But with this game, no, you gotta press R and then you gotta press R again. And as far as the level, there are a lot of parts that really have no point. Like, there's just one part where you'll be in a section where you have to use dark magic, but you can't because it's the demo and that's something that's going to be unlocked later on. But you use your whip to get onto a certain part, and then you jump up onto the statue, and then there's a section where you can jump onto the wall, but there's no point because you can just drop down on the floor. So it's just either weird level design or they were just getting lazy and they thought, okay, we need to make sure that the player goes in the way we want them to instead of exploring it on their own. So let's put this little spot over here where the player is going to obviously see it because it's highlighted because they're all dumb idiots. So let's get them to go there, then drop down. And those controls for dropping down are really, really not enjoyable. They're not exactly quick drop. No, you have to hold down the drop button. As if you didn't want to drop down. You're not pressing drop down because, you know, you want to go down. You're pressing drop down because you're bored on it. Because that's exactly what I was when playing this demo. Bored. Hopefully the full game won't have this problem, but as it stands, the demo was not exactly the most thrilling thing out there. The music is not at all memorable. The level design didn't feel as intuitive or fun as the other Castlevania games. And no, I'm not saying it because it's not Metroidvania, like a lot of people have been complaining about. I don't know why exactly, but yes, they were good design games. I really enjoy them, but it's nice to have it shaken up. But I think I might just be a bit hypocritical when I say this, but as somebody who did want the series to change past the formula, they should stick with the formula. Because Castlevania Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate, the first demo, it's not exactly what I'd call the next big thing in Castlevania game. I'd say it's the first big mistake in a long time. Not to say that I won't enjoy the game. I'm sure I'll probably enjoy it. I'm probably going to be wrong about it because they touched it up and this demo was just really early, because this demo was actually what they showed at E3. Or at least it's the footage that they showed at E3 that I've been seeing before, and I checked over it and it's almost point for point. You go from here is Trevor to there's the boss. So maybe I'm completely wrong on this. Maybe you enjoy the controls, the frustrating, really frustrating timing of certain enemies. Maybe you enjoyed the button mashing, but as for me, I'm kind of worried about the game. Maybe that's just me. Tell me what you think. Thanks for watching, and until next time, as always on my regular channel, and here, game on, my friends. I'm really worried for you. Okay. Please don't suck. Oh.